Aloha. Aloha kakahiaka, good morning. I'm Kahu Phil Stevens. Sometimes the worst things that happen to us, they get blamed for everything that comes after it. We say, everything was fine until I lost that job. Everything was fine until the money ran out. Everything was fine until that relationship fell apart. Everything was fine until I got that phone call. And sometimes that's true. Sometimes a storm really does cause damage. But there's another possibility that's hard to consider. What if everything that wasn't fine before the storm? What if the storm didn't create the weakness? What if it simply made the weakness impossible to ignore? As a Paniolo here in Hawaii, I've seen that happen with a fence. A post can stand there looking perfectly good through months of calm weather. Then a hard storm comes through and down it goes. You could blame the storm. But when you pull that post out of the ground, sometimes you discover something important. The bottom didn't rot last night. It had been rotting for years. The storm didn't rot the post. The storm revealed it. And that's what I want to talk about today. You see, there's a big difference between cause and exposure. I want to talk about that today. And if we confuse the two, we can spend years trying to fix the wrong thing. Because there's a big difference between cause and exposure, as I said. We don't want to confuse the two. We don't want to spend those years fixing the wrong thing. Suppose somebody loses their job. Within a few weeks, everything starts falling apart financially. Bills can't be paid. Credit cards start getting used. There's tension in the house. Naturally, the person will say, losing my job caused this. If a person says losing my job caused this, and certainly losing the job mattered, but what if the problem was no emergency savings? What if debt had already been growing? What if the family had been living with absolutely no margin for years? The job loss didn't create those things. It exposed them. That's not blame. That's diagnosis. Blame asks, what fault is this? Whose fault is this? Diagnosis asks, what actually happened here? If we're going to find the cause, instead of continually treating symptoms, we have to learn to ask that second question. I think sometimes we misunderstand stability. I think that because something is standing, we normally think it's strong. Those aren't the same thing. A budget can appear to work because nothing expected has happened. A relationship can appear to work because nobody's talking about the difficult stuff. A person can appear strong because nobody has asked them to carry anything heavy. Not yet. Standing is not always the same thing as being sound. That's why pressure can teach us something calm weather cannot. Pressure reveals things. And I want to be careful here. I don't believe that every storm comes into our lives just to teach us a lesson. There are things that happen in life that hurt, things that are unfair, losses we would give anything to undo. I'm not going to tell somebody who's hurting that this happened just because you needed to learn something. No. No, no, no. But I will say this. Even when I did not choose the storm, I can choose what I do with what it revealed. I may not control what happens, but once something has been exposed, I have a choice. I can cover it back up, or I can look at it. And covering it back up is tempting, because when the storm passes, we want normal again. We want the crisis over. We want life to go back to the way it was. But sometimes going back to the way it was is exactly the problem. Because the way it was may just have produced the weakness that the storm just exposed. If I survive a financial crisis and then return to exactly the same financial habits, what have I repaired? If a relationship survives a crisis but nobody addresses what was exposed, what changed? If my body forces me to stop because I've been running without rest, and as soon as I feel better, I go right back to the same pace, what did I learn? We can survive a storm without learning anything from it. And if we do, there's a good chance we'll meet the same weakness again. So instead of only asking, how do I get things back to normal? Maybe we need to ask, was normal actually working? Was normal healthy? Was normal sustainable? Was normal honest? Or had I simply gotten used to it? Because normal doesn't necessarily mean sound. Sometimes normal just means familiar. There's another side to this. Storms don't only reveal weakness, they reveal strength. You don't want to just know only your weaknesses. This you want to know, to reveal the strength. Maybe you've been through something you never believed you could survive, and yet here you are. Maybe your family came together. Maybe you discovered you could live with less. Maybe you discovered abilities you didn't know you had. Maybe your faith became real in a way it never had to be when everything was easy. Pressure reveals what is actually there. Some of what we discover needs to be removed. Some needs to be strengthened. And some needs to be protected because we finally understand its value. This isn't about looking at our lives just to find everything that's wrong. It's about learning to see clearly. There's a scripture where Jesus talks about the wise man who built his house upon the rock. The rain came, the floods came, the winds blew and beat upon that house. And it stood. Then he talks about another man who built his house upon the sand. The rain came, the floods came, and that house fell. What strikes me is that both houses experienced the storm. The storm wasn't the difference. The foundation was. Before the rain, both houses may have looked fine. It took the storm to reveal what they were standing on. So maybe, just maybe, instead of spending all our energy praying for no storms, another prayer ought to be, Lord, show me what I'm building on. Show me where something is weak while I still have the time to strengthen it. Show me what I'm depending on that cannot carry the weight I'm putting on it. Show me what I've been calling normal that isn't healthy. That's not living in fear. That is wisdom. Now, maybe you're listening to this and you're already in one of those storms. I don't want to give you 20 things to do. I want to give you just one. Ask one question. What is this revealing? That's all. Don't try to rebuild your entire life today. Don't condemn yourself. Don't start tearing everything apart. Just look. What is this revealing? Maybe it's something about money. Maybe your relationships, your priorities, your faith, your health, the way you use your time. Maybe it's revealing strength you didn't know was there. Write it down if you need to. Pray about it. Look at what life was like before the storm came. Because once you can see clearly, then you can decide what actually needs to change. And this adds another piece to the Rotten Fencepost Principle. First, find the cause, not just the symptoms. Then we asked, why do I keep starting over? Now we're adding this. Don't automatically confuse the storm with the cause. The storm may be what brought the problem to your attention. It may have knocked everything over. It may even have caused real damage of its own. But that doesn't necessarily mean that it created the weakness that failed. I cannot promise you a life without storms. Nobody can. But I don't know, and I don't want to keep rebuilding the same fence after every one. I don't want to keep putting the same rotten folks back into the same hole and hoping next time the wind won't blow so hard. I want to know what failed. I want to know why it failed. And I want to know what needs to change. So before you blame the storm for everything that fell, take a look at what it exposed and ask yourself, was this weakness created by the storm? Or did the storm finally make visible something that had been happening for a long time? Those are not the same thing. The storm did not necessarily rot the post. Sometimes the storm simply revealed it. I'm Kahu Stevens. This is the Rotten Fencepost Principle. Find the cause. Pay attention to what the storm reveals. And don't put a rotten post back into the ground. Aloha.